Welcome back to Podcast 49, guys. Chris, what's going on?
Hey man, I was at archery hunting. No, I was rifle hunting this week,
Mm-hmm.
and I put a couple in the freezer.
All
So
right.
yeah, had a good
Well,
week. Good.
well, today we got an interesting topic to talk about here, and we got Philip joining us from a limit shield. And Philip, we had you on, what was that, back in the summer to talk about a limit shield and all that.
Mhm.
Yep.
And that was one of our most listened to podcasts. And
Awesome.
I think Chris is now on what, day 200 of not wearing deodorant?
Yeah, it's probably close to that.
How many days has it really been?
I lost count,
It's
man.
like at least 80,
Since
right?
well, when the product came out, and I went on that hunt September
It was like,
18th.
yeah, since then.
So since then, a week or two before I left, I started using the product
The
Good.
foam,
and
the foam.
the
Yeah.
foam. Yep,
Yeah.
and
Good.
So Philip, Chris hasn't been put on regular deodorant
no deodorant.
since
Hey,
then.
that's good. That's good.
Yep.
That's. I mean, that's what we like to hear. That's what we developed it for. We
Yeah,
love hearing those success stories.
it's pretty
You
crazy.
cannot believe, like, I made videos about it, and like when we were in New York, I videoed myself and a couple other guys using it and stuff. You can't believe how much outpouring of people I had calling me about this stuff, you know.
That's awesome.
And then I had a couple of guys actually contact you. I know.
Yep.
Uh, they
Yep.
they contacted you and said, "Man, Chris turned me on to this stuff. I gotta have it." And
Hmm.
Well,
it,
just let your friends know. Anytime they reach out to me, I'm going to answer directly.
right,
That's really important to us with Limit Shield.
Yeah.
right.
Is having that relationship with our customers and answering questions and uh, you know with you guys being all over the place and really using it the way it was intended to be used. Uh, there's no greater marketing tool out there than success.
So Philip, you retired recently,
Yep.
so congrats on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you are now in the drone business.
I am.
And has it been long, or is this something new?
No, so this all started about this time last year.
Okay.
Um, and let me back up just so your listeners understand kind of how I got to be in this drone stuff because the drone community is full of a lot of really smart people,
Hmm.
and I'm just your average crayon in the box. Um, I shot a deer last year in North Carolina, and we joke anything over 130 in North Carolina is Boone and Crockett.
Hmm.
And it was probably about a 140-inch deer, great deer. I watched it run for 200 yards, just pouring blood. Couldn't find it. Uh, Called a dog guy around here that's got a really good reputation. He came, tracked for 5 hours, couldn't find it. I found it this summer, and I felt like, and at the time, I was paying attention to Mike Yoder with Drone Deer Recovery up in Ohio because his videos were just fire, And it's kind of like when Seek One first started.
Hmm.
And I was paying attention to this stuff. And I was like, man, I bet if I had one of those, I could find my deer. So uh, there's a guy that lives in my neighborhood. He's a state trooper also, and he actually helped start North Carolina Highway Patrol's drone program in 2017. So this is where the intelligence comes in. So when I tell you, it's full of smart people. Okay, that's not me.
Hmm.
David is that guy for us. But completely understands all this, the computer programming, the mapping, all the things. It's like with a smartphone. Like we use probably 15% of its capability. But he understands 100% of it. So we got to talk, and I was like, hey, man, what do you think about, getting one of these thermal drones and, starting to get into, trying to find some deer. And, there's a fire department close to us, we can use it for law enforcement also if need be. And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we started Shadow Tech, and we bought a thermal drone. We've got a DJI Mavic 3T, which is it's on the smaller side. And came in, and I sent a message to a buddy of mine that's a huge farmer. Uh, he is a member of Extreme Ag on social media, and they're kind of the kiss the ring folks in the agriculture community. And we're very lucky to have him close by. And I said, hey, man, just let you know, we've got this drone, and then we got another drone. It's a Matrice 3 Enterprise, and then David already had two other drones. So at the time, we have four drones. I said, hey, look, we're doing mapping. We're doing farmers or calves get out, deer recovery. If the fire department calls, we go out. Senior citizens, kids lost in the woods, pets, whatever. I said, so if you need this for any photography or aerial stuff with your farming, let me know. Now, keep in mind, this guy was a 2022 Grower of the Year. Okay, keynote speaker at all the big agriculture
Mm-hmm.
trade shows, and he hits me right back on text message. You ever thought about doing spray drones? And I was kind of familiar with it, but not really. And I said, well, sort of. And he said, get certified. He said, I got a lot of business for you. So we started looking into it. And so that's a whole nother drone operation that we got going on. But it started from Shadow Tech. And
Okay.
so, what we do with Shadow Tech primarily is we do mapping, we do photography, videography. Of course, right now we're doing big game recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what we do, people will call and say, hey, I'm thinking about buying this property. Can you come at night and kind of give me an idea? Are there deer there? Are there, more coyotes and deer? Give me a heads up. And so we get contracted out to do that. And it's a hustle, but there's good money to be made there.
Mm-hmm. Now, I can talk to you all day long about deer hunting, food plots, but when it comes to drones,
We have no idea.
I'm dumb. Now, primarily, it's hunting season, so we're going to talk about deer recovery.
Right.
Now, this thing, a client customer calls you,
Mm-hmm.
you get to their property, you put this thing up in the air,
Right.
and you fly it over, and you're looking for a heat signal, correct?
Right. So
Okay.
so with this technology, it gives you several different color palettes you can choose from to
Hmm.
identify heat. And I've got a particular one that I like. It just works well for me. Um, it's been my experience that late in the evening, at night, first thing in the morning is the best time to do this.
Hmm.
Middle of the day, you can, but it's just harder. I tend to tell people when they call, if they like, I had a guy call me this morning, and he said, I just shot it. I need you to go ahead and come on. And I was like, well, I'll tell you what, let's wait till it gets dark. Let's give the deer a chance to lay. I said, you have to be patient. Okay, don't go in the woods.
Right.
If you think your shot is marginal or not good, do not go in the woods. Don't push that deer. Let it bed down. And so then I'll take the drone. I will, I'll stand there with the customer and get a map and an idea of the property. There's certain things I want to know. What were you shooting? How far were you? What was the deer's reaction? Which way did it go? Where's water? And where do you think it went? And when I first started doing this, I put a lot of stock in landowners really knowing where their deer would go. As it has turned out, if this is your property,
Hmm.
and I say, where do you think it went? Oh, it's right here, man. They always bed right here. I know he went right here. Find the drone down here, or find the deer down here. Uh, these deer do crazy things when they're hurt.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll take it out, and I'm looking for a heat source.
Okay.
And when I got this drone, and all through this year, I've gone out just, I can't even tell you how many hours, and flown looking for deer, just so I could identify the shapes, how they move, what they look like when they're bedded down, what they look like when they're dead, they look like when they're walking, because that helps me be efficient. And the laws are very, very different wherever you go. In North Carolina, the thing to remember is uh, you can't assist a hunter in taking natural resources.
Hmm.
So uh, Dave calls me. I shot one. Man, I don't know about the shot. Can you come help me? Absolutely. Drive out there. I get all that information. What'd you shoot it with? 30-06. How far was the shot? 400 yards. What do you do? Well, he just stood there at first, and then he kind of stumbled, and then he ran off in the woods. Okay, where's your water source? And I get all that stuff. I go up, start flying. and we find the deer, but the deer's not dead. It's
Hmm.
wounded and it's hurt. It's bedded down. All right, so this is where the crossroads are, at least in North Carolina. So now we know that deer exists because that hunter saw it and shot it. So we're looking for a deer, and we have found that. So that deer we know of. It's not like we're just up looking for any old deer to then go run in and shoot. No, we know this deer exists and we're looking for it. So now we found it. Okay. So I'm not aiding him in taking unknown natural resources, right? He knows it's there and we're looking for it. So we found it. Okay. It's not dead. Now, I cannot hover my drone over top while he goes in and finishes it. I can't do any of that. Now, I will give him the coordinates of where that deer is, and I will tell them, do not make a decision on what you're going to do until I've packed up and left. And I tell them, just leave them overnight. Just leave them overnight. They're hurt. I mean, they're laying in a pool of blood. Leave them.
Hmm.
And typically that's what people do, and they go back and they're dead the next morning. So it's I think my longest one was probably 5 hours. My shortest one was like 4 minutes. Um,
Gotcha.
and I will tell you, bow hunters are much more accurate than muzzleloader or the Orange Army.
Hmm.
Uh, I don't know if people don't sight their rifles in. I don't know if they don't clean their muzzle loaders. But man, it's it's bad down here. I mean, it's whew.
Now I'll ask you this controversial question: with how many deer would you say you recovered, or how many
So
have you looked for?
yeah, so I've got 15 recoveries.
Okay.
I've got 4 that I did not find the deer,
Okay.
but the deer showed back up within 3 to 4 days, uninjured, on trail camera, which gives me the satisfaction of knowing that
Right.
the property I was flying, I didn't miss it. It
Hmm.
just wasn't there.
Out of those 15 that you recovered, was there is there any statistics on fixed blade and mechanical broadheads,
Um, no,
or is it
it's
just bad shot placement?
shot placement. It's and I talk to the shooters, whether it's archery, gun, whatever, and I'll say, and I don't ask it like in an accusatory manner. I'm literally curious. I'll say, hey man, just out of curiosity, how much do you practice?
Hmm.
Oh man, I put a pie plate up and I hit it at 15 yards beginning of the season. Man, I was locked on. Yeah, that's not locked on. You
Right.
know, and like I know with me in early season, as ridiculous as I look in my driveway, I do jumping jacks and then grab my bow and I shoot. It's the only way I
Hmm.
can get my heart rate up the way it is before I shoot in the woods.
Right.
I don't get like buck fever, but my heart rate's accelerated.
Hmm.
Oh
And
yeah.
a buddy of mine, he doesn't shoot Luminox. He doesn't practice. Uh, he doesn't have a peep. Uh, he doesn't have he doesn't anchor at all. So it's never the same, And he wounds deer all the time. He's like, I just don't understand. I said, man, like you got to get serious about it. But
Hmm.
no, to your point, there's no one or the other.
Okay.
There's not.
When this drone goes up, is there, I don't know if you can talk about it or not, but is there a certain height that you have to
Yes,
go, and what is the field of view to pick up that heat signal?
sure. Yeah. So, in order to fly a drone commercially, you have to have basically a pilot's license from the FAA, and it's called an
Hmm.
FAA 107. And you are regulated to 400 feet. Now, that's 400 feet from the ground.
Hmm.
Now, if I am doing a cell tower inspection, okay, then my 400 feet starts at the top of that tower. Okay. So I am allowed 400 feet to get my drone up. Now, once it gets up, uh, you can see, I mean, the horizon. Now, on my drone, I've got a 56 times zoom
Okay.
that's pretty amazing. If you look at those pictures I sent you earlier, a
Hmm.
lot of those were from 250, 300 feet.
Oh wow.
Um, now, I'll get down to about 160 feet once I locate a heat signature,
Hmm.
just to help my zoom that much more. If now that Matrice 30T, it's got a much better zoom and it's got a much better spotlight than mine does. I have an aftermarket spotlight. It works great. It's just it's the difference between driving a Maserati and driving a Cadillac. They're
Hmm.
both great. One's just a little greater than the other one. But I'll drop down, and what I'll do is I'll turn my spotlight on if it's at night, and then I can zoom all the way in. And there's no, I mean, you can see the wound, you can see the blood and the leaves. You
Oh
know,
wow.
yeah, it's really really detailed. And if I don't find it, okay, turn the light off, go back up, look for my next heat source. And what I'll typically do is I'll go where I think the deer is first, then I'll go where the customer thinks the deer is, and then I just start grid searching if I haven't
Hmm.
found it by that time. But I would say, and everybody's experience is different, but where we are, I would say probably 75% of the deer that I find are within 50 yards of a water source. Um, so, you always hear, gut shot or liver shot or whatever, they always go to water. And some people say, oh, that's not true. Well, the data that I've seen, that's just me,
Hmm.
says they do go towards water. I think
Yeah.
they when they get
Hmm.
injured, they feel dehydrated, and that's what happened with my deer that I lost last year. I'm certain booked it across the next farm over, and then I pushed it when I initially looked and lost blood. The dog pushed it when it showed up, and then once everything settled down, I think it was coming back to the creek that it crossed, and it got to about 30 yards. That was where I found it. I just
You
think
know what?
couldn't go anymore.
You know what's crazy about that? You say that is years ago. I had another property I hunted on. I shot a deer with my bow. Couldn't find it. Well, it ran when I first shot it. Obviously, they don't know what's happening, so they just take off. It
Right?
ran the opposite way of water. I couldn't find it. The next day, it came back
Yeah, yeah,
behind me and died within 20
yeah.
yards of the creek.
And I really do think, and this is putting it in layman's terms, but I really do think when you hit a deer like that, it kind of has the oh crap moment,
Hmm.
and it just books it until
It realizes what happened.
it realizes, okay, let me just get my stuff together here.
Survival mode.
Right.
Hmm.
And then, their radar really goes on point. And then it's self care. What do I need
Right.
to do? Now, I
Right.
will tell you that a large majority of these deer that I find, when they're laying down, they are laying down on the wound side if it's not a
Mm.
pass through. I just had one recently. Dave, I sent you. It's in some pine trees. You can see it curled up, and the
Hmm.
wound is on the other side, and it wasn't a
Okay.
through and through.
Hmm.
Now,
That's
that
interesting.
that begs the question: are they doing that to try and clot the wound up?
Hmm.
Is that what nature is telling them to do? Or is it just the way they end up?
Huh.
I don't know.
Right.
Put pressure on a wound.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That
Um,
wouldn't surprise me if that's
Mhm.
what they do.
and
Now you.
these drones, man, like I was flying one the other night, and I was at coming up on the edge of a field, and all of a sudden this red object just it's like comes out of nowhere, and then another one, and another one. I was like, so I stopped just out of curiosity, turned my flashlight or my spotlight on, and it was a coyote den, and they were
Mm.
coming up out of it. And
Hmm.
I looked over at my hunter and I said, "I'm dropping you a pin. You need to go over here with some gasoline and some tannerite, you know, and you probably want to handle this."
Drop
Uh,
it down the hole.
yeah, but I mean, a lot of times in the early morning with my heat signatures, I get squirrels running up and down branches, rabbits running, and when I first started doing this, like, I couldn't tell the difference. But that was a lot of the reason I spent as much time as I did leading up to the season starting in my first year doing this
Yeah.
was so that because if I don't find deer, my value does not exist,
Hmm.
right? So that's why I spent that much time getting to understand the drone and everything that it does and its capabilities. Um, I've got a really good friend of mine that is up in Virginia. He's up around Williamsburg area. His name's Judd Updike, and he's got a company called Captured Media, and he's got the matrice. He does a little bit different than I do. He does YouTube videos of each one of his, and then they're very good. He's a phenomenal editor, and it's odd. He and I will compare notes all the time, and some stuff just doesn't change. Like there are people that don't practice.
Hmm.
Uh, define them by water, stuff like that. but these drones really, really are spectacular.
Now, my last question to you is, I the reason I brought you on here, one, is interesting, and I've been getting questions about it, like drone recovery. Dave, what do you think this is fair? Are you for it? Um, and I think any any means that you can do, whether it's dogs, drone, or whatever, to find it, I think
Right,
it's you should be able to do it.
right.
Now, have you seen a percentage or the comparison between dogs and the drone? Like, which one
Um,
is better?
so, and I get asked this a lot, and
Yep.
I think people are trying to, not you, but I think people are trying to set me up for a we versus them.
Mm,
And my answer is this, and even all through my law enforcement career, uh, dogs are only as good as their handlers.
hmm
And dogs are only as good as the amount of work somebody's willing to put them through. Um, I tell people that I think dogs are a good tool if you are more than 75% sure that animal is dead. But I would say more than half of my calls have come from I tracked it, couldn't find it. Called a dog, couldn't find it. And then I come in and I find it like way away. And the reason for that is because, and this isn't me downing dogs. I believe in a dog's ability.
Oh yeah.
But if that deer is wounded, you're just going to push them.
hmm
And so now that client is donating to the dog and then paying me. And one of the things I've tried to tell people, in the spirit of woodsmanship, we should do everything we can to recover that animal.
hmm
There's nothing worse than you shoot something and somebody doesn't go look for it, and then you find it a month later and the coyotes, got to it, where you could have at least gotten in the woods and, terminated it, harvested it, made an ethical kill, if you made a bad shot. So to me, by any means necessary, I think if you're staying in the spirit of an outdoorsman, I think it's okay. Now, people that will take a drone, getting ready to go in at 2 in the afternoon, put a drone up, fly it over their farm. Oh, there's 4 of them bedded down right there. I'm going to the east side stand. No, like cell cameras are about my limit with using technology to help you harvest an animal.
hmm
But at the same time, the same people that say, well, just technology's out of control. You shouldn't be doing that. And I say, all right, do you play golf? Yeah. Is your driver made out of wood? Do you have a hardwood driver? No, you have a titanium driver. Why? Because it makes you better. It makes the game easier. So, I get it. But you just, if you're not sure, I would recommend calling in a drone. But there are some questions I think you need to ask. Number one, do you have a Part 107? Number two, are you insured? And number three, can you send me some pictures of some deer you've found? Because anybody can go out and, like, my drone is about $6,500. It was about another, I think, $500 or $700 for the spotlight. So I'm $7,500 in.
hmm
Anybody can go in and buy one. Get a Facebook page. Hey, drone deer recovery, or whatever. It doesn't mean you're going to be good. So if you don't have a Part 107, to me, that just means you haven't taken the time to be a professional.
hmm
Plus, it's illegal. Number two, if you're not insured, sometimes these drones literally will get a mind of their own. They'll disconnect and they'll just take off. If that happens and you fly it in the middle of I-26, or it goes into I-26 and causes a wreck,
Right.
If your neighbor next door, 80-year-old Sally's walking out getting the newspaper and your prop smack her in the face a half dozen times, like, you need to have some insurance.
hmm
And then if you get there and the drone operator will not allow you to participate in the recovery, look over your shoulder, um, you know, be a part of the process, that's a problem. Um, there's a couple that I've heard of that they show up, they're up for 10 minutes, like, nah, I can't find it. Venmo me $500. You know, uh, where I am in North Carolina, my market won't sustain $500. Now up around Ohio, uh, Kansas, Illinois. Well, Illinois it's illegal, but some of these states where there's record deer, you know, somebody thinks they've got a 180-inch deer, yeah, they're going to pay $500 to find it.
Right, right.
Not so much down here, and I tend to be a little on the lower end because I do want the work, and I would rather have you call me this year and next year and the year after, and if you're going to buy property, call me to take pictures of your property. Like, I want your business for the long term, right? And so, I just have a problem with these people that just absolutely just gut rake people and then don't even find their deer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got a couple questions for you, Phil. If you get called out and you go in the evening, like you say, how do you get, where do you set up at? I mean, do you find an, of course you have to have an opening to get up, but how do you get set up to start the fly? And when you say spotlight, do you mean an actual light, or is it
Yes.
infrared, or how?
No, it's a high power LED spotlight.
Okay,
And
and
it
is that on at
is
all
so.
times?
What's that?
Is that on at all
No, I
times
turn it
when it's
off
in
and
the air?
on. I turn it off and on as needed. So
Okay.
it's got two lenses on it, and then on the bottom part, I'm trying to get my fingers right here on the screen. On the drone, the thermal camera's right here. Wherever that camera looks, the lights follow it. So
Okay.
when I look down and zoom in, the light's already there. So where I obviously try and get somewhere where there's no power lines, but I don't have to have but about a 6-foot diameter to get my drone up through there.
Mm-hmm.
I've flown through some sketchy stuff, but I've got enough experience and I'm confident enough with the drone that I can do that. What I try and do is just get up wherever I am, because I can fly it so far out, and as long as I can keep an eye on it, I've gone. Well, I'm not going to say how far, but I've gone really far. There's regulations, but I've gone really far, and so when I do that, that's when I start doing that grid searching, and then so my battery lasts about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on how much of the spotlight I'm using, and then I'll come in, and I've done all 4 batteries, recharged all of them, and go right back up. Like, I'm fully invested with this hunter when I'm there.
Now, is there any built-in way that you can't bump into something? Will it alert you that
Yes.
something's too close?
Yes, but just like condoms, they don't always work. So, and I'll give you an example. So to answer your question, yes. So DJI, which I believe is the cream of the crop drone company, they have built-in radars, and that radar, you can adjust it to basically at what point you want it to stop the drone away from X, right? Now, if your radar is on and you crash the drone, then DJI looks at that as their radar failed and they will replace it. So with one of our crop spraying drones, the T40, okay, now that's a $45,000 drone. And yes, and we've got 2 of them. And we were up in up in Wilkes County, the home of moonshine, really threading the needle with this drone. These drones are 11 feet in diameter, 210 pounds, fully loaded. And we were really threading the needle doing some fungicide for a farmer. And there were about 11 power lines that we had accounted for that the drone was picking up, but it didn't pick up the 12th power line.
Mm.
and the props are 4 foot long carbon fiber, and it caught the power line, and it got tangled up in the power line. Power line was hot, caught fire. The whole drone catches on fire,
Oh
falls in the
my.
middle of the field. Um, the radar was on, so we did a claim with DJI, and it was the easiest process in the world. We put it on a pallet, we sent it back. They looked at it, they said, "Yep, you had everything mapped properly. The radar was on. Our radar didn't work as advertised." They put a brand new drone on the pallet and sent it right back. We had it back within 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and we work with a company called AgriSpray drones. They're phenomenal. Customer service, top notch. We had a motor go bad on one of those. Everything they send you is overnight. They overnight it to us, and then they stay on the phone with us for an hour and 20 minutes, walking us through the replacement of this motor, and it was flawless. So the drones are so smart. Um, you can program it, the ceiling that you want it to go to. You can program it how far out you're willing to let it go before it automatically stops. You can program it to do a whole lot of things. And when you get into the mapping stuff, that's when it gets really, really crazy.
Mhm.
And we do a lot of mapping. David, my business partner, is so intelligent with that stuff, and it takes about 6 or 7 hours to do about a 200-acre field. And we charge a mapping fee because it takes so long. But by doing that, we are so accurate and efficient with their chemicals that they don't have waste. And where if this is the field right here that we're spraying, if you're using a crop duster, well, they're going to miss this third because they have to drop in. They're going to get the middle, but then they're going to miss this third because they have to pull up, right? So plus they have drift issues as to where we're plus or minus like inches of how close we can get this stuff. So the drone technology is phenomenal. I would like for the United States to have an equally as good drone, but they just don't. We've got assembled in the United States drones, but it's all Chinese technology. Like I said, DJI is a cat's meow, but there's a lot of states now. North Carolina is one of them that will not order any more of their products.
Mhm.
That's a whole separate argument. Are they spying on us? One that I don't get into. Mine
Right.
finds here, so
Yeah.
there's that.
How
How
about
far how far are you traveling for this business wise?
For the deer or for the agriculture or both?
Both, because I think the agricultural part is huge
It
for you
is
as a business. But both.
absolutely. So with the agriculture stuff, as long as your check cashes will come.
Mhm.
It is not a cheap product that we provide, but it's one that is needed. I mean, there's value to it. We don't bend
Oh
people
yeah.
over the barrel
Mhm.
and price gouge them, but we have a lot of overhead.
Mhm.
So we've been contacted from Maryland, been contacted from Michigan, Virginia, South Carolina. So as long as those states have reciprocal agreements with all of our pesticide licensing that North Carolina has licensed us to do, and you understand the travel costs and the daily rates, yeah, we'll go. Now with the thermal stuff, man, I try and keep it within an hour's drive because
Okay.
I don't change my fee for an
Yeah.
hour's drive. Um,
Gotcha.
and I've kind of paid attention on social media to guys around me that I feel like are professional and do a good job. And there's about 4 of us, and we'll send work to each other. Hey man, this is too far for me, but I think it's in your neck of the woods. Will you take this one? And so that's good. That helps because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you should want to help the hunter harvest his animal. It should not be about you getting a check.
Yeah.
It is business, and I am here to make money.
Yep.
But if somebody cares enough to spend that money to recover a deer, then I want to give them a premium product, and
Mhm.
that's kind of one of our calls to action with the agriculture side. Is if we cannot provide a premium product, we don't do it, and we go above and beyond to make sure that everything that we do is teetotal top notch, that we will not be outdone by a competitor providing a better service to a client. Uh, and that's just, I just think that's important in business, but I think it's also lost a lot too.
Hmm.
People want to show up, work, pay me, move on to the next thing. And because David and I are retired and have a nice pension coming in, we can afford to build relationships with these growers as we work. I see your Farmall shirt. So,
Yeah.
you know, I know you understand ad,
Yeah.
and, you know, for us, in the spring, like I pray for rain. I want like 5 days of rain because tractors can't get in the field, which
Right.
means they need us. But I want to service the farmers so they can stay on calendar.
Hmm.
And we stay wide open. We schedule four days a week. We leave one day open for the farmer that calls, with the SOS. And we, sun up, sundown, but it's a full operation. Now, Dave, with the stuff that you do with a lot of the land management, um, we really want to do as much work as we can uh, with crops that are for food plots.
Hmm.
Um, you know, not everybody has got a ground rig that can go in and spray 1,000 gallons, and have a $250,000 John Deere do all that.
Hmm.
As where we can come in and, early season, we can do a burn down, we can kill everything. Uh, if you want to turn the soil, turn it, we come in, we spray it again, and then, you plant, we can come in, do the liquid fertilizer, any pesticides, herbicides, fungicides that you need done, we do all that stuff. Um, Later in the year, if it's corn that you got and you got gray leaf or you have morning glory, we can come in and take care of that. So, we really want to have a small niche in the hunting community, but that's one of those things that, right now row farmers are just where we are. But
Hmm.
we've got 2 drones, we've got 2 trailer setups. We're going
And
to have 2 teams.
and you'll spray any liquid fertilizer, for instance, that the customer wants.
Absolutely,
They
yeah.
can provide
So
it.
yeah. So we've got our pesticide license, our pesticide contractor's license, which I've got my contractor license, aerial applicator, pest plant, which you have to have those to have your FAA 137 to be
Hmm.
able to be a licensed aerial applicator.
You
There's a
you
lot of
are all in.
He's
That's
all in.
exciting.
He's
well,
all in.
but we couldn't do this if it wasn't for our financial backing.
Yeah.
Because all of that stuff takes time, and
Yeah.
that's 6 months of studying right there for
Hmm.
all that.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and then, like I said, we're $250,000-$300,000 in. We've got a custom built $25,000 enclosed trailer, it's air conditioned. It's got a
Ooh.
250-gallon freshwater tank, 100-gallon mixed tank. It's all interplumbed. And
Wow.
uh, Bryson Industries, Aluma Shield's parent company,
Hmm.
that's what we do is formulate chemicals.
Hmm.
So plumbing everything and mixing, like that, that's what we do. Like all we're doing is just doing it on the road now. So the knowledge and the ability to be able to plumb and do all this stuff was second to none. And our COO, Tommy, um, we call him MacGyver because, man,
He can
like,
do it all.
yeah, like I could take him my trash can that's on the road right now to be picked up in the morning, and man, he could come up with a freaking Volkswagen Bug. Like he's crazy. He's got all these great ideas, but he's so intelligent,
Mm.
and we're so efficient. We've got a door on the side, a little RV door about that big on the side of the trailer, and we run a high tension hose, high pressure hose out of it. We got 36 feet. It's got a gas nozzle on the end of it, so the drone sets down. We pick up the nozzle, we put it in on automatic fill. While it's filling up, we pull the big battery out, drop the new battery in. By that time it's done being filled up, we take the pump handle out, put the top on, ready to go.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're we've we've been cornered by the Forestry Service about doing some work for them.
Hmm.
Uh, we're getting into doing Christmas trees. Um, well, I say we're getting into it. I really want to get into doing Christmas trees. Um, The problem with that is that there's a lot of manual flying with that because, Christmas trees grow on hills like this right here. The drone will figure that out and the drone will act accordingly, but sometimes it's just better to manually fly it. But just to put it in perspective for you, like how much money we save the ag industry. So I was talking to a Christmas tree farmer. He's got 300 acres. He pays 10 migrant workers, sun up to sundown, for 12 days with backpack sprayers to spray their trees 4 times a year. Okay. If we came in and did it, we would be able to do it in a day and a half. As to where he's paying 10 people for 12 days. We can do it in a day and a half. So it is efficient. Now, one of the things that we're also working towards is we're working with the legislature. And because David and I have had our hands in state government for so long, we've got a lot of friends. Not that we're anybody important. We just know people that are decision makers. And we've talked to them and say, hey, look, why don't you give the growers a tax break if they utilize drones for X amount of their harvest because they're reducing their carbon footprint. Now, with that being said, there's going to be a lot of people out there, and rightfully so, they're going to be like, oh, you're putting tractors out of business. Diesel's what powers America. Totally agree. I love John Deere, love Massey Ferguson. I love, Farmall. Like, I love diesel. Like, I love guys that delete their stuff on their trucks and roll coal, black smoke. Love it. I love pulling up beside of a Prius and like, I think it's great.
Smoking it.
But, right. But, eventually you're going to have to incorporate something like this into the agriculture industry. So we're trying to get a benefit to the grower for doing that. And plus it ups our value. Let's not be stupid. I mean, it ups our value also. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of things those spray drones do. Golf courses. You think about liquid fertilizer on a golf course, tee to fairway to green, how quickly we can get that done. And keeps them from having to run their equipment all up and down, the
Right.
stuff. Football fields. List it, pumpkin patches. It goes on and on.
So, on a really small scale, I'm going to pull back the reins here on you.
Yeah.
On a really smaller scale, like I myself thought it'd be cool just to get a drone and fly it over my food plots and show everybody an aerial view, that type of thing. Somebody said, well, I can't do that because if you use that footage on YouTube, you could get in trouble. Have you heard anything like that?
No. So that goes back to what we talked about that FAA 107. If you were going to fly a drone commercially, you have to have a 107. Now, coming from somebody that was in government that did law enforcement for a long time, if the FAA gets so desperate for work that they are going to people that film something and put it on YouTube and can somehow tie it all together that helped you make money, then we are in a sad state with the federal government if the FAA gets to that point. Now, technically, is that correct? Yes. If I was you, would I worry about it? Absolutely not. Now if you were out there doing cell tower inspections, water tower inspections, roof inspections, doing thermography,
And making a living off of it.
Right. Like, doing inspections with solar farms and getting paid handsomely for it. Yeah. Get your 107. Yeah. But no, for something like that, for something that's enjoyment, if the YouTube is something you do for enjoyment, that you do after work hours, no, that's, I think you're well within the spirit of recreation there.
Right.
This would be huge, like the spray drones for like pine plantings or something.
Absolutely.
You could spray liquid fertilizer and shorten the distant or the time frame between they have to cut the trees and then replant. Because if it takes them 10 years to get whatever tall, You spray them with liquid fertilizer, it cuts the 2 years off of it.
That's right.
They get more. They get more
Well,
plantings.
and we also can spread seed with these
Right.
drones. We
Okay.
just take out the liquid tank and we just put the seed hopper on it.
Right. Orchards.
How
Yeah.
about defoliation? Like somebody wants to timber, and they want to
Yeah, and
take
so
kill all
like
the leaves off.
the stuff that you have to use for that is so toxic and so powerful that I won't do it personally. There's just too much risk.
Mhm.
I do a majority of the chemical stuff and the ground stuff, and David does a majority of the flying right now. And we have an agreement. If it's too dangerous for him to fly and he says no, we don't fly it. If it's too dangerous to spray and I say no, then we don't spray it. That stuff right there, like you're getting into stuff that 10 minutes after you spray it, it's black. And like if my drone were to take off, and I lose control of it, if some of that stuff gets drift and gets in somebody's yard,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
See, they did that over. We've got a large tract of land over here, and somebody bought it all up, a large company, and they flew over and they defoliaged it all out.
Yeah,
And that
that.
I thought, wow, do
Mm.
I really want to shoot a deer in there and try to butcher this thing and eat it? I mean, that stuff's so toxic.
Well, that's the stuff that, and we use PPE. I mean, I use goggles and gloves, when it calls for it. But that's the stuff right there where you wear a double chemical suit with the daggum respirator, and I just like that's too much for me.
Yeah, right.
Even if somebody were to say, "Man, I'll pay you double," I'm not doing that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Not worth the risk.
It's not. It's not. But yeah, these drones are amazing. I would, there's a lot of stuff online about them. There's some stuff that I've seen that I think the FAA is going to probably end up fining some people with a lot of zeros. You have to use these drones within the confines of what they're made to use for. And I'll just leave that there. There's some entertaining things out there that people can do with drones, and some entertaining things that people can do in the hunting industry with drones. But
so
get yourself in trouble.
Right.
Yes.
So Shadow Tech is your business. Do you have
Correct. So that's our smaller drone business.
Okay. Is there a website?
Yes, we did do a website.
Okay.
We mainly do everything Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Bryson Brothers Aerial Solutions is our ag stuff.
Okay.
And we're going to start ramping up some stuff on our social media here coming into the season. We've got some really neat things. We actually had in the spring a film crew come out and document the big spray drones. And I don't know if it's going to be on Discovery Channel, the Weather Channel, or I can't remember. It's called Grow TV.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a streaming farming whatever. But so yeah, we'll be pushing that out, and we're starting to do a lot of consulting work because people are really getting turned on to these drones. They want to invest in the ag stuff, but they have absolutely no idea what they have to do. And you have to get 125 hours of supervised flight before you can even get certified. So, we're doing consulting work with those 125 hours. And like I said, we'll travel, as long as your check clears, we'll travel. We've got a guy down in the eastern part of North Carolina. He wants us to come down there for 10 days. He said he's going to rent a fifth wheel, set it up at the farm for us to send him a grocery list and a beer list. And we'll just spray for 10 days and pack up and come home.
Crazy.
It is, but it's lucrative.
Yeah.
It's
I
fun.
love it.
I mean, where else can you experience, America, other than maybe a NASCAR race every day? Where can you experience that and have that to look out at every day?
Yeah.
And you get some really good heads up on some good deer property.
Oh, heck yeah.
I bet.
I like the whole idea. I like the farming side of it. I
It's
like the deer
intriguing.
side. I think the ag side is going to blow up for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I just think that's the way it's going. And like I said earlier, the planting, the tree farms,
Hmm.
orchard, all that stuff is going to
Yeah,
be, I think, big.
yeah. We had a very well known vineyard call us,
Hmm.
and it was in the middle of our season. They said, "Hey, we need our vineyard sprayed." I said,
Hmm.
"Okay, well, this is when I can schedule you," because at the time I wasn't retired. Me and David were both working a 40-hour week and then spraying on the weekends or our days off or taking vacation or whatever. And
Hmm.
so I said, "Well, this is when I can calendar you." And the guy says, "Well, what's your head of the line fee?" And I said, "That's not how we do business." I said, "We don't, we can't put you in front of other people, And he's like, "Well, everybody's got a head of the line fee." Dude, I gave him the most ridiculous number. Just, I was told one time a long time ago, when you quote people prices, and Dave, you probably do, you probably understand this. You have three buckets you choose from. You have the price you give somebody because you really want to work with them and you
Hmm.
want to have their business for a long time. Then you have another price that you give them because well, I mean, I'll do it, but it's going to be this price because if I don't do yours, I'll do somebody else's. And then you've got the cost that we we call it the up yours cost.
Don't
You
really
don't
want
want
to
to do,
do
you
it.
don't want the price, you don't want the job. So
Yep.
here's a stupid number just to
Yep.
run them off. So that was the bucket I chose to pull from,
Then
and
they
I
say
gave him
yes
the
anyway.
I gave him the up yours price, $25,000 to get in the head of the line. Thinking he'd be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, you're crazy." He was like, "All right, when can you be here?" So, but we
Like,
we, we
dang,
did
I
not
should
do
have
the
gave him
work.
a higher price.
Yeah, it should
I
have
know,
been 50
right?
grand.
Right.
Yeah.
So we ended up not doing the work just
Hmm.
because we felt like that was not a good look for us.
Right. Right.
Um, but yeah, it's really it's fun. Man, it's forward thinking. But I would caution people before you invest money in this stuff, do your homework. Find out what it takes to do this. The thermal stuff's not so much. That's anybody can do that. That's kind of the JV league. Uh, you get into these great big agriculture drones, man. If you don't learn the technology, if you don't learn everything that this drone can do and how it works, you're going to end up getting in way over your head, and you're going to lose money. It is what it is.
Hmm.
So, for everybody out there that's thinking how cool it is, and I agree, but it's only cool for me because I invested a year of my life before we even made a penny doing it,
Right.
and it is some of the hardest testing and certification processes I've ever been through in my life.
Hmm.
So just make sure you know what you're getting into. And I'm not the smartest crayon in the box, and I did it. So it's anybody's capable to do it. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of startup money.
Hmm. Well, I love this, and I know you've been hunting, the past couple days, so you have to get back to some stuff. So I appreciate your time coming on here, and
Absolutely.
it was really cool talking about it. And I think the listeners too, because like I said, I had questions about the recovery part, deer recovery,
Yep.
but the ag side is super interesting to me. So I appreciate you coming on here and
Yeah,
talking about
absolutely. And if anybody has any questions about any of this stuff, just if you can, just put up my contact information. I don't
it.
care if you give my cell phone number.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, I'm pretty quick about replying to stuff. Everybody gets a direct response from me, whether it's a
Hmm.
lemon shield, it's this stuff. I'm a big believer in that. So,
Okay.
um, perfectly fine to give my phone number out. Happy to help people. If you have a project you want help on, if you want us to come spray for you, happy to do it. We also do demos. We'll
Okay.
come and show you our whole ag setup. We bring the thermal also and do a full demo so you can see how it works, uh, and what you're going to be getting into. And then if you're interested in purchasing something, we've got a really good guy, a dealer that we go through named Tucker Green. He's out of Gastonia, North Carolina. Um, and he you won't find better customer service. So we can help you from start to finish. Happy to do it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Philip.
Guys, I appreciate it as always.
Very intriguing.